Good morning, everybody. It is 8 a.m. in Phoenix. I just got out of the shower. My hair is still wet. We're all going to watch it dry and get progressively fluffier over the next little while. And Samson is here with me this morning. Hello, big boy. This is Sammy. Anyway, Samson's here with me this morning as well. So if you hear him bark, it's because he's being ignored. Anyway, we have been doing, hi. Okay. Yeah, he's being ignored. So we're going to have Samson join us this morning. We have been doing, I have been doing lives with our contributing authors from Wild Abundance, How to Live and I Get to Life. Do you want to see the book? You want to see? It's very good. It's very good. It's a very good book. Anyway, we've been doing chats with authors from our book. And today we have this person right here, whose birthday is today, as a matter of fact. Her birthday is exactly 2 weeks after mine. I can never remember the date of her birthday. I just know it's exactly 2 weeks after mine. So it's always on the same day of the week. Anyway, this is one of my best friends, or my best friend I was doing the math this morning in the shower. We met when I was 18 and she was 19. So I was doing the math in my head. Stop it. We have been friends for like 37 years or some insanely long amount of time. So this is my friend, Leslie Malotky, and she lives in Wisconsin. Hi, Les.
Hi.
Happy birthday today. Now officially a year older than me again. The universe has righted itself. I'm 55 and she's 56 today. Happy birthday in the comments to Leslie. And she is one of our contributing authors in Wild Abundance, How to Live and I Get to Life. So Leslie, tell everybody how we met, because it's a funny story.
Oh, it is. We met in statistics class at UW-Milwaukee.
Mm-hmm.
I had just I transferred to Milwaukee for love.
For love.
For love. And yeah, so you had this like striking platinum blonde hair and this black velvet headband that I just thought was the bee's knees. And I was just like, wow.
Black velvet headband, baby. That was it in 1990. I'm telling you.
Yep. And I think I had on like a floral skirt with boots that you thought were the bee's knees too. So, we were like all about, you're cool. I need to get to know you. So we ended up becoming study buddies, and the rest is history, literally. Like through weddings, being each other's maids of honor, each other's kids' godparents. We know where all the bodies are buried.
We know where all the bodies are buried. Who, when I die, is allowed to clean out my phone and my. Let's say that. So, okay. So Leslie, we're going to talk about Wild Abundance today, How to Live and I Get to Life. Your chapter 6, I Get to Build a Life That's Mine, tells I think a story that is extremely relatable to a lot of women. Would you like to share why it is so relatable to a lot of women?
Oh, absolutely. Unfortunately, too many women have probably got the same story. I was married. My husband had an affair, and actually he had an emotional affair. Previously, we worked through it and through counseling, and just through circumstances about 4 years later, just kind of history repeated itself. And at that point, I just knew that it didn't make sense to continue trying to make things work. In that case, there wasn't a desire to it, probably on either side. So he was actually traveling the country with another woman. I was at home.
I remember it happening, but still.
Yep. I was at home freaking out because I didn't know, I didn't know what to do, and I knew what I needed to do or should do, what anyone, with a right head on their shoulders would tell me to do. But we had, built our dream house. We had established a life there together, and the thought of all of this falling apart, and not, the thought of, okay, not only do I have to go through a divorce, I got to figure out where am I going to live? How am I going to afford it? Am I going to be transferring to a different school system for my son? Like all of the things that go through your head crazy at once. it hit at that point.
So where did the so your chapter is called I Get to Build a Life That's Mine. Okay. Where do you think the transformation happened? Where did the mindset shift happen for you?
Um, when I think about the story, there's a very distinctive memory I have of when I first realized this is going to happen and there's nothing I can do to control it or change it. I was sitting in my backyard, and I felt like my house was behind me, and so we had an exposed lower level, like walkout basement. So it essentially felt like 3 stories of this massive house behind me, crushing me, like literally coming down on me. And I remember sitting there, and not only had my marriage fallen apart, my neighbor had just passed away from cancer. And at the same time, I had learned that my father just had a new cancer diagnosis. My company had announced that they were going to be doing reductions. And so it was literally, it felt like the weight of the world on my shoulders. Um, I won't say there was a moment where all of that changed, but I very distinctly remember not even realizing the transformation as it was happening, but being back in that backyard a couple years later after I had done. I was able to keep the house. So spoiler alert there. I was able to keep the house. I had done a ton of work on it, and I was back in that backyard, and my perspective was so completely different because it was massive, but it was, this is mine. I did this. Like, I survived it. I made it through. I was able to do this on my own. But at the same time, looking up at the stars, I realized how insignificant all of it was in the grand scheme of the universe anyway. Like, I'm this tiny little speck that doesn't even matter on the planet. Mm-hmm. But all of the stuff around me is like what I've been able to accomplish and survive.
Oh, wild. And now I lived through it with you, so I have a perspective on it as well. And what I saw from my side was as you started very slowly rebuilding the parts of your life and taking ownership of not having anyone else's opinion involved in your life, like buying chandeliers and light fixtures that were very, very you and nobody else necessarily would have picked, right? Or buying couches and buying, like shiny, glossy. The furniture you have now is very you, but it's not anything that a man would have picked.
Right.
Those are the kinds of little small moments where I look at it and go, these were the tiny little evidence moments of where you stepped into your own identity and not an identity of being partnered. So when you think about the bigger story of like I have to versus I get to, how do you feel like where is your life now? Where's your mindset and your perspective now on that?
Oh wow. So I'll say again, you don't realize you're changing your mindset while you're going through it, right? Because I literally was like, people say take things one day at a time. I was literally at the point of like, I'm taking things one breath at a time, and when I can advance to 1 minute at a time and an hour at a time, I'm celebrating that, which is ultimately what happened. So the I get to now is the things that I think that I clung to that was my identity, right? I clung to, I redid everything in the house. You're right. So like I replaced flooring, I painted every room a different color, replaced all the furniture. I was very fortunate that I was able to do that because what happened for me going from thinking I was going to lose the house and everything was I got a promotion. I had a manager who really believed in me at work and gave me an incredible opportunity, which allowed me to keep the house. But so that was my identity at the time. And the funny thing is I ultimately went through another job loss, and I did sell that house, and because I got a job in central Wisconsin, so I ended up moving to Wausau. Went through cancer diagnosis and treatment, chemotherapy, all the stuff. So my mindset right now is I don't identify with those things in my life anymore. I I look at my life as what an incredible opportunity or opportunities plural I've been given. I am currently renting, which is weird for me because I'm used to being able to pound holes in walls and things when I want to. But what that's done for me is it's allowed me to pursue other interests and hobbies. For example, I get to come to Arizona and watch your dogs while you take your family on vacation. And I love that. I love just having that freedom of being able to just up and go. And so, that for me very much is I'm in control of my life. And I'm not letting outside things define me anymore. And not letting being in a relationship define me. I'm not letting what kind of car I drive define me. It's truly like, for me, how can I give back to the people who gave to me? I mean, you've supported me through a tremendous amount of stuff. We won't even go into all the stuff that you've that you've
That's what best friends are for. If your friend this is where I talk about this extensively in the book about you find out very quickly who's in your circle by knowing who's in your corner, right? Because when the shit hits the fan is when it is where you need the support. It's where you need help, whether it's through cancer or job loss or marital trauma. It's finding out who's in your corner is truly revealed in the storm. And that's where I found where my community was. That's where you found where your community was. And I think it's very relatable to most women is, and what's equally surprising is realizing who wasn't really in your corner in the first place. That was most surprising to me.
Yes.
Going, okay, I have cancer and you don't show up. How interesting. Okay. Glad to know that. Right. Those things were also very equally
so true.
Right. Like, okay. Yeah. What do you hope a woman who may be still in the fire of maybe early where you were in your journey, finding out that, her relationship isn't what she thought it was, or somebody who's early in the fire, sitting in the backyard, feeling crushed by her own life. What do you hope some woman who may be hearing this or reading this takes away from your story?
I think I really want that woman to focus on her future self and picture her future self coming back and whispering into her ear, like, you have no idea what you're capable of, and you have no idea what you are going to accomplish. It's not what you can, it's what you are going to accomplish, because you're going to get through this storm and you're going to be amazed at what is going to happen with your life. Even it's going to be painful, right? It's not going to happen tomorrow. You're going to have to go through this. So I remember somebody sending me an email saying, the only way through this is through it. And as simple as that is, it was so powerful, because you're right. You can't shortcut your way around some of these life circumstances, but if you can focus on one breath at a time, 1 minute at a time, 1 hour at a time, to 1 day at a time and beyond, you will amaze yourself at where you're going to be and what you're going to be capable of doing.
I know, it's wild. It's watching your transformation coming. So without oversharing, Leslie had 2 divorces, both of which you tended to morph yourself around the partner you were with. And this is things I can say to you because I'm your best friend.
Right.
Right? But I think you have stood in your own identity long enough now that another relationship, you wouldn't do that again.
Right.
I hope.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
I hope. So you get to be yourself, right? That's ultimately at the end of the day, the goal.
Yep. And I'm happy with who that person is.
I hope so.
That's the biggest thing is it's not about who I'm with. It's about who I am.
There's our line for today, you guys. It's not about who I'm with, it's about who I am. That's the line for today. Leslie quoted it today. So we're talking over the next Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 a.m. here on my page. We're talking to a whole bunch of different women. As you can hear, a whole bunch of different types of stories. We've got business stories, personal life stories. We've got some stories coming up of loss of spouses. We've got business changes. We've got health trauma. We've got all these different types of life that happened to these women, and they came out the other side of it stronger. How do we shift our mindset into this abundance of, if I hadn't lived through that, I wouldn't have this. If I hadn't lived through that, I wouldn't get to do this. That's the mindset we have to try to hold on to. And that is very difficult some days where you're like, I'm in the fire, right? But how do you put yourself in that position of, I get to make these choices and live this, whatever life I have left and whatever life I have, I get to make it for me, and I get to make it for the people in my circle who I have the privilege and opportunity to take care of. So you guys grab the book if you haven't already. It's a whole bunch of inspiring stories of all of these amazing women. Coming up next, I did it wrong last time. I said Carrie was next, and Leslie messaged me. She's like, did you bump me? I'm like, no, I didn't. No, I was wrong on the calendar. Okay, so next Monday morning, the 9th, we're talking with Rachel Perry, who Rachel I've known through the suite, through business for years and years and years. And she made the very, very difficult decision to end a business partnership to stand on her own. And it was very emotional and traumatic and a whole bunch of stuff there. And then next Friday, we're talking to Carrie Driscoll. Carrie Driscoll, a lot of you know Carrie. She lost her husband suddenly 7 years ago to brain aneurysm. And she's rebuilt her life in all kinds of magical ways. She's going to tell that story. But she's also very... what's the word I'm looking for? I was going to say dark, but she's not dark. She's just funny. But she's live with us on Friday the 13th. And she messaged me. She's like, that seems right. I'm like, okay, that's right. We're going to do that. So next week, we're talking with Rachel and Carrie. They're here. Rachel is, where is she? There's Rachel right there. And there's Carrie right there. We're going to talk to them next week and hear their stories of how they stepped into an I Get To life. Leslie, thank you for joining us today. And I hope you have a happy birthday.
Thank you.
I'll see you in Phoenix in like a month.
Yeah. Looking forward to it.
I know. Have you talked to my husband and gotten coordinated on the details?
We're working through it. Yep.
Okay. Sounds good. I'm not involved. You know me. I don't do details. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Grab the book on Amazon if you have not yet. Wild Abundance.